This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send us an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our radio website, along with our TV show website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And for all the programming that we have available for you, 7/24, 365 on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Todd Robbins. He is an award-winning performer and creative artist that has worked in many areas of popular entertainment and performing arts during a 30-year career. Todd is currently seen hosting a new TV series for Investigation Discovery Channel. This documentary series is called True Nightmares and features Todd telling the stories of some very twisted people and the dark wrongdoings they have perpetrated. Other recent appearances include the Discovery Channel's Oddities and Lost Magic for the History Channel. In addition to being a featured performer, Todd has also been called upon to speak as an authority on all things unusual. Todd can be seen talking about sword swallowing and swallowing disorders on Spike TV's 1,000 Ways to Die. And he was a recurring expert on the History Channel's Wild West Tech, where he expounded upon dime museums, traveling sideshows, spiritualism, narcotics, and prostitution in the Old West. He also provided commentary and insight on the DVD of the classic sideshow horror movie Freaks. Todd has also been a consultant on numerous TV shows and movies, including several episodes of Law and Order, Criminal Intent, Chris Angel's Mind Freak, and A&E and Road Trick on the Travel Channel. Joining us now from the Big Apple is Todd Robbins. And Todd, welcome to the X-Zone, and congratulations on all of your great work.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Todd, where did the interest in the weird, the bizarre, and the wackiness of the world start with you?
Well, I grew up in Southern California, which is enough of an explanation for many people of why I do all the twisted things I do. But it goes a little further than that. I grew up in a suburban area just south of Los Angeles on the Orange County border. And it was a place that was clean and it was safe. It was quiet. It was pleasant. And it lacked character. And as a kid, I wanted something more exciting. And I found it in a couple of places. One was downtown Long Beach, where all the cool old buildings were and all the cool older people that had stories and had lived life. And I used to love to go down there and kind of rub shoulders with them and find out all about interesting things that had happened in the past. And then a magic shop opened in our neighborhood when I was about 10 years old, and I went in there, and it was great. It was just filled with strange, unusual props designed to deceive the senses, and there were guys that would hang around there on Saturday afternoons, chain-smoking unfiltered Camel cigarettes and doing card tricks and swapping lies. And that's where it kind of all started, because I heard these stories of the strange and the unusual and some things that even as magicians they couldn't quite explain. And it just instilled in me a love of the strange, the unusual, the bizarre, and the unconventionally beautiful. And I've spent a lifetime kind of pursuing all these things.
I understand that you've also done work with Penn and Teller.
Yes. Yeah, I've designed some and consulted on some magic, and Teller and I have a love of the old spiritualists, everything about the whole world, from the out-and-out frauds and criminals to the people who are doing things that were kind of hard to dismiss and put your finger on exactly what they were doing. And so we created a show called Play Dead, which is an evening of ghost stories that I do. And it seems all very simple, but it all takes a very twisted turn. Yeah. And it was designed to sort of scare the shellac out of people.
You know, I'm listening to you talk, and listening to you, you sound a lot like Vincent Price.
I've gotten that before, and that's about as high a compliment as possible, because Vincent was the Lord High Minister of everything sinister.
Right. That was meant as a great compliment to you, my friend.
Well, thank you.
Todd, please stand by. You and I have to take a break. Exonation, Todd Robbins is our special guest, www.toddrobbins.com, and we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Exonation Todd Robbins is our special guest this hour. Todd has been classically trained as an actor at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. He has put his performing abilities to good use in 2 Drama Desk nomination theater pieces that he created for Off-Broadway. The first one, Carnival Knowledge, was a behind-the-scene look at the world of the American sideshow and chronicled his experiences working in places like Coney Island. The second show, Play Dead, was co-created by Teller of Penn & Teller and was a spooky evening of ghost stories and startling phenomena. Teller also directed this acclaimed production. A film of this stage show is now playing the film festival circuit around the country. Plans are being made to open a permanent production of Play Dead in Las Vegas in the fall of 2017. It is very likely that Todd will reprise his role in the show for this production. His website, www.toddrobbins.com. Todd, how did you become the host of Investigation Discovery's True Nightmares TV show?
Well, it came about, I was contacted by Discovery Studios, the production arm of the Discovery Communication, and they wanted to do some sort of a sideshow series. And my name kept coming up as they were doing research, so they contacted me and they said, you know, we looked at video of you and think you might be a perfect host for what we want to do. Mm-hmm. But the problem was that whole project got axed. They had trouble selling it. Because people said, oh, Sideshow is too dark. And they were talking to people that, you know, produced the Ice Road Truckers and Deadliest Catch and all these shows about people working and dying. But the Sword Swallower and the Bearded Lady was too dark a topic to deal with. So they came to me and they said, you know, we like you. Is there anything else we can do? And I showed them the footage of Play Dead. And they went, oh, you're telling real stories about dark people, which is exactly what we do over at Investigation Discovery. And you're doing it in a way that is a little bit different than what we do. And so maybe there's a show here. So we started playing around with some ideas and concepts. Mm-hmm. And from that, we jumped and did the series. And it's been very well received. We've done 2 seasons. We're waiting to hear about season 3. We might take a little bit of a hiatus because there's a couple other projects that I'm working on right now, including the possibility of doing a ghost hunting show. Except that when I go ghost hunting, walls will bleed. We will find ghosts. There won't just be little beeps on a meter or recordings that you have to play back and massage to hear a spooky voice. No, we're going to meet ghosts dead on, eye to eye, or orb to orb, as it were. So we could have some fun with this.
Let me ask you, why do you think so many people are into the ghost hunting genre these days? Everybody wants to be a ghost hunter. It seems that, you know, a couple of years ago, everybody wanted to be a UFO hunter, but the UFO hunters have kind of fallen to the side of the road, and now everyone wants to become a ghost hunter. Why?
Yeah. Well, you know, it ties into the mystery of all mysteries, which is what happens when we die. It's a question that, people have been pondering, and my dogs are pondering right now. As you
I can hear that, yes.
in the background.
And they're bringing up some very good points, I might add.
Yes. I have two miniature chupacabras here. So, and you'll occasionally hear them when someone buzzes the apartment next door or something like that. We're here in the middle of Hell's Kitchen, cheek by jowl with the rest of humanity, and who knows what's going on behind their doors. But I think it really ties into people want to know if there's anything to look forward to, because especially these days, you look around at what we have in life, and a lot of people are hoping something is better in the hereafter. So I think that's the reason. He's just trying to figure out what that's all about, and if there's a way of making contact with the other side.
Is it true that you actually threw late night parties in a cemetery when you were in college?
Yeah, that was I discovered that the Long Beach Municipal Cemetery's front gate was not locked. And on nights when the moon was full, Friday nights when the moon was full, I would invite friends and friends of friends, and we would kind of park off in the distance so if anyone drove by, they wouldn't see the cars all gathered around there. And I would lead them in, and we would kind of huddle in a circle in front of one of the mausoleums there. And I would tell them stories about the people that were buried there. For the most part true, but occasionally I would round off some corners to make a good story. And there was one fun thing in that the mausoleum was kind of built into the hillside. So a friend of mine used to climb up while I was telling the story about one of the members of the family that's interned there. But if you notice, there's no sign on his little grave. When you look through the gates there, there's one that's unmarked, and it's because it was a son that they didn't want to talk about because he had problems. No. And they tried institutionalizing him. I mean, he didn't have the capacity to quite understand exactly why he was being confined there, because he had trouble with humanity. And even now, years after his death, on nights like this, if you're very quiet, you can sometimes hear him scratching from inside, wanting to get out once again. And just then my friend would jump down off the roof and land in the middle of the circle and scream. And it was very effective. And we're never so alive as when we're scared to death.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes. And so it was a lot of fun. It's kind of scaring the daylights out of my friends, and then they would kind of, and it was, I had so many guys who would thank me because they'd be there with their girlfriends, and the girlfriends would then hang on to them for the rest of the evening and wouldn't let go. So there was a lot of fun to be found among the dead.
Do you think that graveyards or cemeteries are really haunted?
I wonder about that. There's so many things we just don't have the capacity to know the answers to, and I think that's one of them. And you just wonder. I mean, there's so many explanations you can come up on both sides as to what exactly that phenomenon is, and I think that's part of the problem is that I love mystery, and I love the idea that we just really don't know, because when we run into trouble, and is when we come up with easy answers that feel good but aren't necessarily rooted in any kind of reality. It's just things we're hoping to be true.
You've been called the postmodern master of the sideshow. How did you get that title?
Well, I was fortunate in the timing. When I was growing up, when I was a teenager back in Long Beach, I met some wonderful old sideshow performers, and a number of these guys, well, they were a member of a generation that was the last of the true sideshow professionals, people who made their living year in and year out working in carnivals and circuses, and occasionally in the old days amusement parks, some of the older amusement parks like the Pike in Long Beach, doing sideshow. And they taught me. I showed such respect to them and such appreciation of what they were doing that I gained access to their world, and they taught me a number of the secrets that they had learned, and it had all been passed down from generation to generation in a apprentice mentor kind of dynamic. And so they showed me all the things that I needed to know to do all these wonderful stunts of what's known as the working acts. The people that swallowed swords and ate fire and hammered nails into their nose and other things like that for fun and profit. And, told me about working with the great freaks who were the royalty of the sideshow. People have this image that, all the freaks were being abused and beaten by the show owners. But the fact is, they often made so much money during their careers, they ended up owning the shows and working for themselves. So who's doing the exploitation there? But that's another topic. But it was just this really wonderful, rich subculture that people just didn't get entree to, and I was very fortunate. And now I'm of an age that they were so generous to me, I've passed along a lot of what I've learned to a generation, and there are now probably more sideshow performers than ever before, but the sideshows are all gone, except for Coney Island and one on the Carnival.
Well, how would you describe a sideshow to a person listening tonight who has never seen one?
It was wonderful. In the old days on the Carnival, there were shows more than rides. I mean, now we have all the spectaculars that throw you upside down and twirl you around and whatever. But the old days, a Carnival Midway had maybe 3 or 4 rides, like a merry-go-round and a few others. And the rest were shows. There were burlesque shows. There were motordromes, which you still see around at some motorcycle rallies, which were these like giant looked like a big wine vat that someone on a motorcycle would ride around perpendicular to the sides. It's an amazing phenomenon, an amazing show to see. It's really death-defying. And then there was also the sideshow with these big white tents, long tents, with colorful banners out front that depicted the strange, unusual sights you would see at the 10 in 1, so called because there were 10 acts in every show. And you buy your ticket, there'd be an outside talker. People refer to him as a barker, but the correct term would be outside talker, who would be standing out front with maybe some of the performers from the inside and would extol the virtues of what you were going to see and literally talk you into buying a ticket and coming in and seeing this wonder show. And you would go in and there'd be a master of magic doing magic tricks, and there'd be the sword swallower and the fire eater, and there'd be the fat lady and the world's tallest man, the world's shortest woman, contortionists. And it was all designed to kind of show you how extraordinary humanity can be. And though it was kind of dark and mysterious and kind of shadowy, there was really something kind of uplifting about seeing a good sideshow, because it really did show you that anything was possible. And that's a very powerful message. And I saw one when I was about 12 years old, and I was hooked. I wanted to be part of this world. And it's been a lot of fun through the years.
At what age did you start performing magic professionally?
Well, I was very fortunate. There was a group of young magicians in my neighborhood. They were known as the Long Beach Mystics. And out of this group, many of us became professional performers. And so we, at a very early age, because I had a very good reputation, were doing shows for charities. And I started performing and accepting money for doing birthday parties and charity events and things like that when I was about 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, doing my magic act at blue and gold dinners for the Cub Scouts and things like that. And I've really never looked back, and it's been just a really fun ride. I never know when the phone rings who it's going to be and what's going to be offered.
What was your first TV gig?
Let's see, the first... I did, some news shows promoting things, but one of the most significant one was on the early days of MTV. There was a variety show. I don't even remember the name of the show. I've got to look this up. And they wanted something unusual. And they didn't want just magic tricks, but this was the early 80s, and they wanted something strange. So I worked up sticking my hand into an animal trap, a regular animal trap. It's like a small raccoon or a beaver trap, and I'd set it up and then stick my hand in the thing, which snap shut on my hand and do no harm. And I worked it up for the show and then put that in my magic act. And people talked about that. They didn't care about the card tricks. They came up and said, "No, that can't be real." and I would say, "Yes, it is." And they'd say, "Well, how is it possible?" And instilled this whole wonderful, profound sense of amazement that I just found really intriguing. And so I started working and resurrecting all the old sideshow stunts. So it was that one TV appearance on MTV that really started the whole thing.
Todd, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Todd Robbins is our special guest. www.toddrobbins.com. And Todd is an award-winning performer and creative artist. And he's also going to, you can see him as the host of the new TV series for the Investigation Discovery Channel called, are you ready for this? True Nightmare TV series. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Exonation Todd Robbins is our very special guest this hour. And Todd is currently seen hosting a new TV series for Investigation Discovery Channel entitled True Nightmare TV. And his website is www.toddrobbins.com. Is it true that the founder of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey, sent you a fan letter?
Yes. It turned out I met a fellow who wanted to learn a little bit of sideshow stuff many, many years ago. And he was an associate of Dr. LaVey. And he, I didn't really know this at the time. I was just showing him a few things. And he said, "Can I repay you in any way?" And I go, no. I learned this from wonderful people, and I'm just passing it on. And he said, well, he said, if there's anything I can do, I do this, and I'm a regional director of the Church of Satan. I said, what was that? He said, oh, yeah, I'm a regional director of the Church of Satan, one of the pastors or whatever the distinction was. And he said, oh, by the way, Anton LaVey is very fond of you. I'm like, what? He said, yes, I actually have a fan letter. I had done a video called The Magic of the Sideshow. It was for the magic community, and it was instructing them how to do some of the old sideshow stunts. And he went out to San Francisco, and he always liked to bring a gift for Dr. LaVey. And Dr. LaVey had played organ in circuses and learned lion taming, and also played organ in burlesque shows on the carnival. And when he saw me performing, he said, this brings back memories of all the old sideshow performers that I knew. This guy's great. He's wonderful. And he wrote a nice little thank you note to this fellow, George, and said, and by all means, tell Mr. Robbins I'm very fond of him, and I think he's a wonderful performer. And I have that letter. It's like, this is wild. He unfortunately, the downside is he was going to set up, this guy was going to set up a meeting if I was going back out to San Francisco at any time. And Anton LaVey passed away before we could have a face-to-face. I would have loved to have sat down with that man, because I'm sure he had a few stories to tell.
I would imagine so.
Yes.
Apparently you have a very strange appetite.
Yeah.
Is it true that you've eaten more than 5,000 light bulbs?
Yeah, it's a pathetic plea for attention, but it gets it. It's an old sideshow act, and as a matter of fact, I learned from a guy who did this act, and he was known as the human ostrich, and he also, or the human garbage disposal, depending upon the show.
That's what my mother called me.
There you go. And he did an act in which he would light a cigarette and talk, and then he would throw the lit match into his mouth and then eat the lit cigarette. And he would take razor blades, the old kind of steel razor blades, and chew them up, and he'd break a light bulb and eat it. And he taught me how to do this many, many, many years ago. And I've been doing it ever since. And I was doing the colleges and universities, and then I started working up in Coney Island,
right,
at the sideshow there. And we were doing 10 to 12 shows a day, 7 days a week. No, well, actually 5 to 6 days a week. And I started that in 1992. So you do the math, and it adds up very quickly, the number of light bulbs that I've done. And I've been chronicled in Ripley's Believe It or Not for having eaten more light bulbs than anyone else in the world.
I hazard to ask you this question, but what the heck? What is your favorite dish for eating?
Well, I just, it's finger food. So I just bite into it and chow down, spit out the metal part and chow down on the glass. And I usually eat, 60-watt bulbs. I used to eat 100-watt bulbs, but I'm on a diet.
Will the LED lights have any effect on your diet?
Yes. You can't do those because there's a trace of mercury in them, and they're very toxic. Fortunately, though they're no longer produced in the United States by the major bulb manufacturers, we still get, they haven't been banned completely, and they until they build a wall between us and Mexico, we can still get the GE bulbs from Mexico. And you know what GE stands for? Good eating. So so they do, so I can still get a nice supply for when I'm doing the stunt.
I would imagine as a young child, your mother called you very bright?
Yes, you can say, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I was so bright, my papa called me Sonny.
When I was born, the doctor slapped my mother. There you go. You've got an upcoming podcast called Abnormalcy. What's it all about?
I have collected through the years just stories and information, and it was interesting because, before the days of the internet, I would find old books and newspaper articles on strange, unusual people and things that had happened all around the world. And everyone's doing a podcast these days, and I would go out with producers and of the TV shows and directors and things like that, and other people in the industry, and we'd have dinner and be sitting around, and I'd start telling stories, and they went, "You've got to do a podcast of these stories because no one's really doing that." There's a wonderful podcast called Lore, which kind of covers similar ground, but I have a little different take on telling these stories of these strange, unusual people that some good and some not so good. And there are no happy endings to any of the stories that I tell. So it's that's coming up. We're going to probably have it up and running sometime this summer.
So let me see. Not only do you sound like Vincent Price, but you're going to be the Mr. Ripley of the podcast scene.
A little bit of everything. And I understand that some of the stories that we do on True Nightmares and what I'll be telling in the podcast Abnormalcy might be disturbing some people, and they might find it a little difficult to sleep at night. And if that's the case, they just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to come over, tuck them in, and then stand there and watch them sleep.
Oh, God. Well, or else you can take up to texting like the president does and Twitter
this
yourself.
Is true.
Yeah.
Yes, he needs his beauty sleep. I wish he would just put the phone down and get some beauty sleep, please.
Here's a question for you: if you could have dinner with 3 people from the past, who would they be?
Well, one of them would be P.T. Barnum. No two ways about it. He was so misunderstood. I mean, we know him because of the circus and for that wonderful phrase he said, which was "sucker born every minute." Yeah. And he never said that. It was actually said about him. Someone said, if people are, if Barnum thinks the public is so gullible that they're going to believe the humbug that he's putting forth, then he must think there's a sucker born every minute. But he was an amazing man and created modern marketing as we know it, because he just had his finger on the pulse of the public and, changed the language. When he brought over a large elephant to be part of the circus, he made sure that the name of that elephant, Jumbo, became part of our world, so that when you think something large, you think the word Jumbo. Which was not part of our vocabulary until Barnum came along, and that was just one of many things. So he would be one.
Okay.
I think Harry Houdini would be another one, because he was such a fascinating character on many, many levels. And then probably the third, even though it's 2, would be the Fox sisters, the young girls who started the whole spiritualist movement back in 1848, and for 40 years did seances and started this whole amazing trend that goes on to this day with people talking to the dead on TV.
What is your opinion of people who can talk to the dead? Fact or fiction?
Well, I think, from the ones I've encountered, people can talk to the dead. It's just that the dead aren't talking back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very touchy subject because it's not really entertainment when you start to deal with the loss of others.
Exactly.
It's a wound that never heals when you lose someone, and we think we have closure, but all we really do is become functional. And there have been a lot of people through the years who have discovered that if they just touch upon our loss, they can rip open that wound and make it fresh again and make profit from it. So it's a very chancy thing. I have a little thing I call the Darkness Project, in which I've been playing around with in a small venue in Brooklyn, the middle of nowhere, once a month. And I've been working with a couple of interesting old techniques for mesmerism and hypnotism. And I can actually reunite you with your departed loved ones, but it's a very intimate experience, and it has nothing to do with me, but the memories start to come back, and there is more of a sense of closure by doing that than if I were to stand there and say, your great Aunt Millie is standing next to me, and she says she loves you. That I have no real use for that. I will say this. They're all fakes except 2 of them. But I'm not going to tell you who the 2 are. I just want to cover myself.
It's fair enough.
By saying that.
That is fair enough. Your son, Finn.
Yes.
Is he going to be following in your footsteps?
Well, I think so. First off, Finn is short for Phineas Taylor Robbins, named after Barnum himself. So There you go. He is our little PT. He's already an actor and has a role in an upcoming HBO series called The Deuce, which is about the 42nd Street in Manhattan during the 1970s. He's playing the son of Maggie Gyllenhaal. And she's a call girl who drops her 8-year-old son off at her mother's whenever she has to go and service a client, and that's my son. He also, it's kind of appropriate, he was in a TV commercial that was well received for AT&T, and it was an anti-texting spot in which a guy is driving, and he gets a text on his phone, and he kind of looks at it, and you hear a voice from the back seat saying, "You're going to look at that?" And he turns around and goes, "Oh, I didn't know there was a kid in the car. No, I never check my texts when I have a child in the car." And it buzzes again, and he looks down and he said, and my son, the child, says, "Don't worry, I'm not there. I'm there." And the guy looks up, and there's my son running out into the street after a ball. And the point was, it was called The Unseen, and the point is there's always children present. So it's a very much like an M. Night kind of movie in that my son was playing a ghost. How appropriate.
Well, the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree, does it, Todd?
No, not at all. Not at all.
We've got about a minute before I have to go for my final break in this segment, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
When we come back, I'd like to ask you some questions about your take on certain topics that we cover here in the X Zone. UFOs,
certainly,
psychic phenomenon, ESP, and other topics like that, to get your take based on your expertise in dealing with many of these topics. And
sure.
Okay, sounds great. Once again, Todd Robbins is our very special guest this hour, X Zone Nation. And he is currently seen hosting a new TV series for the Investigation Discovery Channel. This documentary is called True Nightmares and features Todd telling stories. The stories of some very twisted people and the dark wrongdoings they have perpetrated. I wonder if anybody from my radio past is in there. Many of them were strange and twisted. And Todd and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, X Zone Nation, you can listen to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, 724-365, where we have such hosts as Sharon Lynn Wyeth, who does Know the Name. We have Kevin Randall and his show, A Different Perspective. Larry Lawson, who does Paranormal Stakeout, Joe Weegent, who does The World Beyond, and that's just a taste. All this programming for you, 724-365, with our compliments at www.xzbn.net. I'm Rob McConnell. Todd Robbins and I return on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the 4 corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Exonation Todd Robbins is our special guest. www.toddrobbins.com. A number of the people that I've talked to over the years, Todd, doing this show, as well as those people I've met on the road, often ask if ghost hunters or paranormal researchers at times are disrespectful to the dead by taunting them, by provoking them. What is your take on this?
Well, it's an important topic in regard to, is there a life after death? Is this all there is, life, or is there more? And, in order to find out things, we often have to be a little disrespectful and probe and figure out what it is, because there's so much that is unexplained in our world. And the problem is when you come up with, as I mentioned earlier, easy answers that feel good on both sides of it, whether they are the true believers or the hardened skeptics that go, well, it must be this. Well, and that there's foolishness in that kind of flat-footed stance. I think we need to, if you look back through history of all the major developments and innovations that have happened, at one point people just scoffed at the idea. And it's important to kind of keep an open mind. And I don't think it's disrespectful for the dead, for the people that are going the ghost hunting, because we're just trying to find out what there is. And if there is an entity that is there, embedded in a location, why? And is it possible that they are, looking for peace in what they do? So the end result is, I don't think it's disrespectful whatsoever, because this is the only way that we are going to make any kind of progress in knowledge and learn is by doing paranormal research and trying to figure things out.
Psychics, real, legitimate, fact, or fiction?
We've all had a psychic experience. We've all had an experience we can't explain. And again, this ties into the same kind of thing, in that we just don't know. And those that will tell you they do know, I think they're either guessing, or there's a profit to be made by giving the illusion of psychic ability. And that's where you get into a lot of trouble, because people want to believe, people are looking for answers, and there are people out there that will be more than willing to look at you straight in the eye and lie to you. I've met a lot of people through the years, and I really haven't met anyone who could, on a regular basis, do anything that was, you could really put your finger on and say, this is psychic ability that can be called forth at any given time. There was one old medium that I knew years and years ago. I won't mention the name, because his family is still in the business. And he was just the most charming con artist you'd ever want to meet. He had this great smile and this charming demeanor. And we got talking about him being an open medium as opposed to a shut-eye. And that often is just the phrase that when one medium meets another, or psychic meets another, they say, "Are you open?" And it's a little code that says, asking if they're real or not. If they know if they know what that means, and chances are they're a fraud. But anyway, he said, "I give people hope. It's false hope, but it's hope nevertheless." And he said it in such a charming way, I found myself nodding. And they were like, "Wait, what? What?" So there's the problem is that there's just so much. The whole field has been so tainted by those people that are trying to pass off sleight of hand and other manipulation of reality as a genuine phenomenon.
How about UFOs? Is it possible that the governments of the world are suppressing information pertaining to the existence of UFOs and extraterrestrials? That's
another topic that my impulse, and it's not based on anything except opinion, is to say no, because the governments can't seem to do anything right. So how is it that they could maintain a conspiracy for 60 years? All of these things, they're just not that good. So if they've got people that are that good, why aren't they working on some of the big problems?
Exactly.
Just concealing the truth. So, people have seen things. There's no doubt about that. They've had experiences, but they're so fleeting, they're so ephemeral, that we can't really do anything except guess what possibly that was, as opposed to seeing it over and over again and really being able to test it and come to the truth, the reality of what that experience is.
In my experience doing this show for the number of years I've been doing it, I have found the UFO community to be very forgiving when it comes to an irregularity or a fallacy that is discovered later on during the events of a UFO sighting, landing, or crash. For example, the crash at Roswell, New Mexico, when you had Jesse Marcel, the base intelligence officer, goes out to Mark Brazil's farm, finds out some of this debris. He takes it into his custody. Now, as a member of the military, intelligence, whatever, you'd never give up the chain of custody with evidence. Yeah. But what does this guy do? Well, he decides that he's going to bring this debris home and he wakes up his wife and his child and lets them play with this debris. And in my opinion, as an ex-cop, as soon as he did this, the case is over. It's tainted.
Yeah, there's not a court in the world that would find that legitimate.
Yeah, except the UFO community.
Well, you know, the great Joseph Dunninger, the wonderful mind reader, theatrical mind reader, when asked if he was real or not, he said, "Those who believe, to those who believe, no answer is necessary, and to those who don't, no answer will suffice." So that kind of walks on both sides of the street there.
Yeah. I'd just like to ask you a question about true nightmares.
Sure.
Could you share with us one or two of stories of the twisted people and wrongdoings that you've talked about on your show?
Sure. Just very briefly, one of the things that set apart True Nightmares from other true crime shows is that I was ghosted in the reenactments. This is something I brought and I wanted to do. It was basically kind of an homage to the Twilight Zone and the other hosted shows that I grew up with. And so I not only do the introductions that kind of set the tone and get us into the stories and also the outros at the end, but I also, every once in a while you'd see a scene, for instance, that a husband and wife are at a table and they're getting into an argument. They're having dinner, they're getting an argument, and she picks up a knife and she raises the knife and the camera pulls back and I'm sitting on the other side of the table carving up a steak and I looked at the camera and go, this is where things took an ugly turn. And so it has that wonderful Hitchcockian kind of wry humor that we put through. But there were some just amazing stories. One of my favorite was a woman named Belle Gunness. Gunness or Gunness, pronunciations vary on this. And she was a woman that came from Norway. She went to Chicago. A string of unfortunate events, husbands dying. She inherited some money from life insurance policies. She bought a pig farm in Indiana and was living there. And she took out Lonely Heart ads in the back of magazines and newspapers back at the turn of the century, inviting men of means, lonely men, to come and visit her for the possible idea of, romance and companionship and combining their fortunes and living happily ever after. And guys would come, but there was never seemed to be any real connection there. And they were gone in a day or two, and they would come and go and come and go and come and go. And there was a farmhand that seemed to have a fascination with her, really almost a stalker, was in love with her. And she told the authorities that she was scared that he was going to do something because she wasn't interested in him. And they kept an eye on him. And sure enough, her farmhouse burned down and killed her and her two children that were in the farmhouse. And they arrested the guy. They could prove arson, but that was about it. And put him away. And a year later in jail, he developed tuberculosis. And as he was dying, he called the sheriff and said, "I'd like to give you a confession." He said, "Well, we already know." He said, "Yeah, I've got to tell you something," which is he was in collusion with Belle, that she was actually a murderess. And all those guys who came to visit, none of them left. She may have murdered as many as 40 or 50 men, lonely, single men who had money, and they brought the money with them. And she murdered them, often slitting their throats or poisoning them. And if she slit their throats, they would throw them to the hogs.
Oh, my gosh.
To devour. And then she set up this guy, Ray, and she said, we're going to run away together. We're going to set a fire and burn the house down and kill my children, and we're going to run off and with all the money and live happily ever after. And he was so taken with her that he helped her out, not knowing that she had gone to the authorities and painted this picture that he was a madman and in love with her. So the house was burned down. There was a housekeeper that they had just hired that was about the same size, same shape as Belle. And they even found her dental work. She had pulled her own teeth out and left it there next to the body. And he so loved her, he didn't rat her out until he knew he was dying. by then she was long gone, and she's one of the few serial killers that we know who she is, but she was never caught.
Todd, I hate to do this, but we've got to say so long for now. Thank you so much for joining us, Todd.
My pleasure.
And I hope that we have the pleasure of having you back on, and Exonation True Nightmares on Investigation Discovery Channel. Todd Robbins has been our guest, www.toddrobbins.com. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour. Don't go away.